Think about it. Why would the dead return to the living without a message to convey? Most importantly, I believe these shadows are related to someone in the picture, a father, mother, or lover, or a podcast you maligned in life. Welcome into Additional Crew. Um, we are, of course, the spoiler heavy reviews meant after you watch the movie, but maybe you watched the other version of this. Either which way, we are bringing to you this week when Jane and Tun, even run over a girl in a car accident. They speed away immediately from the crime scene. However, Tun, a photographer, soon discovers strange shadows in his photos, which unsettles him. That is the Shutter from 2004. I'm going to try this, guys. Andrew, bear with me, okay? Directed by Banjong, Pisanthanakun. Oh, see, I fucked it up. I know I did. And Parkpoom Wongpoom. I'm sorry. I'm an ignorant American. I love the movie, but I can't pronounce names. I'm trying. We're learning. Bear with me. I did learn something. By the way, I'm Nick. I'm one of the co-hosts here. With me is Andrew, the other co-host. What's up, Andrew?
And hey, crew members, good to be back with this new, exciting horror film, Shutter.
And if I seem like I'm rambling or a little lost, it's incredibly hot in my house. So just you know, we up here in Oregon, they told us we didn't need air conditioners. You do.
Dude, yeah, I
Um,
hate that. That happens in other places that I used to live, where like in Ventura and like in the San Luis Obispo area, like a lot of those houses aren't built with centralized heating or AC units because they don't ever expect it to get higher than 75.
yeah,
Well, it does.
and that's the thing. I'm like, okay, in the 1960s when you made this rule, maybe it didn't, but like it's 95 degrees outside. I
And
don't
there's a
have an
lot
air
less
conditioner.
cars, but even though they say there was a lot of coal emission, there has to be some balance in
Yeah, yeah.
between where like there's still that like thing that we're doing to the earth, which is kind of heating it up.
Well,
I'm not here to get on that spiel. It is hot. It's
no.
hot.
I question the difference in energy efficiency between central cooling and my little portable air conditioner in the living room that doesn't do anything. But that's not what we're here for.
No.
One thing that this movie taught me, before we get into any other topics, is that Thai last names are all unique per family.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. I was wondering. I was like, these last names are like they're hard for me and they get like complicated and they don't look the same, so I can't like get a hold on it. And of course, this is me American centric. I recognize that's a fault within me, not within them. But you should never say "but" after a sentence like that. I also want to make that clear, listeners.
What?
But I went to learn. I went to learn. So each Thai last name is unique to his family, and that's why they are also different. Is they don't have two that are the same.
Uh,
Makes it so there's your little corner of learning for the day. Before we get into the movie, of course, we're going to talk about some things that happen in our lives, things that we've done, things that we've witnessed, seen, experienced. Andrew, you read a book recently.
oh yeah, finally finished The Good Earth. Uh, a Nobel Prize winning author, Pearl S. Buck, not Buck, Pearl S. Book. Pearl S. Buck. Thank
My family's named after what I do.
you. um, yeah, it's a winner of a Pulitzer Prize. She won a Nobel Prize after writing this book. From what I can remember, um, of the brief history I was kind of exposed to at the end of this story, which shows like you know notes given to her, but well, not notes, letters and telegrams given to her by the current sitting president when she wrote this book, because this helped build a fractured relationship with China during uh, during the rise and lead up to World War II, and yeah,
When you say that, do you mean that like it helped make relationships better or worse?
I think it made them better to get an understanding of the way of life and
Okay.
get an understanding of where they come from as a society and civilization. Because, it'll be naive of us to believe that we all live the same way of life compared to other countries. So this helped,
Hmm.
you know, bring those relationships closer because the author of this book, uh, Pearl, she grew up in China. Like she wasn't born in China, but her father was like was part of like a ministry, and so he was trying to spread religion in China, and so he brought his family, and that's how she ended up in China, and she brought in a lot of what her perspective was like in growing up, and just giving her accounts of what she grew up around. And just want to quickly read a little blurb from Wikipedia about this book. It says it was the best-selling novel in the United States in 1931 and 1932, and won the Pulitzer Prize for fiction in 1932, and was influential in winning the Nobel Prize for literature in 1938. So like there was a gap in between her winning the Pulitzer Prize and then being recognized for a Nobel Prize. Um,
That, that makes like some sort of sense to me. Like they knew it was good, and then they saw the impact later, right?
yeah, while living in China, she drew her firsthand observations, like I said earlier, from her life growing up in China, and the realistic and sympathetic depiction of the farmer Wang Lung, the main character of this story, and his wife Olan, helped prepare Americans of the 1930s to consider Chinese as allies in the coming war with Japan.
Okay. I mean that's huge
Yeah, I
for
mean,
a book to do that. You know.
and we're almost 100 years from that moment, and we have such a strained relationship with China now. So like, it's funny how time has a way of creating divides. Just
Hmm.
because we're
Hmm.
enemies now does not mean we cannot be friends later, and vice versa. So hopefully we learn to, work together. But I understand people gotta do what they gotta do in whatever way of them doing it. But this book back in the day, the power of a book, crazy.
Hmm. We need
I can
we
give
need
my
another
thoughts
good
on
book.
this really quick. If you want to share anything of what I said just now.
No, go ahead. Do your
Okay,
thing,
yeah.
man.
Like I said, that was what Wikipedia said. What I think about the book, it is an enjoyable read. There are some slow moments, and the overall story of it is good, with complex characters and somewhat easy storytelling to follow. The hard parts of this book is the way they phrase certain sentences. I have to kind of like train my brain to read it in that way and understand it in that way. And I don't even think it's like Chinese translated to English. I think she just did this as to kind of bring you closer to the characters and the way they spoke, because
Hmm.
this guy, this farmer, he was uneducated, and he grew up uh, on the farm, and it's a story of humble beginnings, rag to riches story, and I think that kind of like adds to the layers of this book. Again, it wasn't hard. It just kind of always threw me off while reading it. So I don't specifically like that. I know it's something that kind of helps connect you, but I
Hmm.
just don't like reading it like that.
So like it's like a dialect thing.
Yeah, it's just the way she
Hmm.
would word and phrase things to kind of like build on that character's way of talking.
Yeah, it's like when Stephen King always wrote every one of his main characters as saying, yeah."
Really,
Yeah, I mean, I've never heard anyone say that word outside of a Stephen King novel, so I don't know if it's real. But
I
anyways, not to compare this to Stephen King.
I did enjoy this book. It was a book I could start and finish, so that's a good sign. I started reading another book and I couldn't get past the first 5 pages like without like being bored. So I was like, I think that shows that I know for myself like if I do and don't like a book. And
Mhm.
this book was
Mhm.
good enough and strong enough in the beginning to keep me to want to see how it ends. So if you want a historical fiction and storytelling from a man's perspective of growing up from rag to riches, check this out. Because yeah, the book follows Wang Lung. You're like left to see the world in his eyes and how he perceives things. So, but it's written by a woman, so a woman's perspective on a man's perspective of his world.
It's interesting. It's interesting. I mean, maybe that helps the storytelling itself go well. I'm saying things I don't know. Um, sick. So, real quick, I just wanted to bring
Oh,
up something. Oh, go
sorry.
throw
Very arbitrary score, 3 out of 5. Good
Hell
read.
yeah.
Good read score. That's my good read score.
Wonderful. Um, okay,
All right.
I'm gonna just bring up something because it comes out I think the day before this podcast drops. I'm just gonna bring up the game Dune Awakening. I've been playing it and it's been hot as hell in here, and I've been running around the desert and it's a lot of fun. Um, just anyone who listens to this and cares about video games, check that game out. Sick.
Dune
It's great.
Awakening.
Yeah. I'm not a huge Dune fan. We've talked about Dune on this podcast
Yeah.
before, which is the reason I bring it up. I didn't like the movies that much. So, regardless of how you feel about the movies, the idea and like the atmosphere and the gameplay is sick. It's just a lot of fun. It's a
And
survival crafter like with a whole bunch of story RPG elements, and it's they call it an MMO because everyone's on large servers, but uh it's a good synthesis of a lot of different styles of games that have come out over the years, and it's very entertaining.
can it be a game that any player can get into, or do they have to be into a certain type of gameplay?
I think you have to like third person shooters because that's primarily what it is. You have to be willing to do a little bit of melee. You have to have some patience. There's like the survival crafting aspect where you have to like get materials and stuff, but it's not as grindy as other games. Whereas like you play a game, and you're like, hey, you got to get this material for the next 28 hours before you can craft a new sword. It's not that. This one you get things really fast. The only reason you really have these like gates is to get you to go to certain specific areas of the gigantic map. And what's so it's a game that most I think most players could get into. The only exception being someone who wants like a roguelike game where as soon as they turn it on, they're just clicking and fighting and they're done, afterwards. The cool part about it is so this takes place in this Dune universe. Of course, there's those sandworms, the Shy Halud, I think they're called.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have those that if you are walking through the desert for too long, they come up and they eat you and they take all your stuff. You have like a bunch of roaming bandits. It's a really cool game. It's a good mixture of like let's say like Mad Max and Conan Exiles, like right in between the two of them, and it works so much better than I thought it would. And the setting is actually really cool, despite not caring anything about Dune.
Sounds immersive. Did you ever
Mhm.
finish? I don't mean to sidetrack. I'm not sure if you talked about it on this podcast. Actually, you did because you rated it in your top 5. Did you beat Indiana Jones? Did you talk
Yeah,
about
yeah.
beating Indiana
I
Jones?
I didn't talk about beating it. It got a little bit repetitive near the end, but I still think Indiana Jones, if you are into these adventure games and like you want a good story, Indiana Jones still had like one of the better stories in games last year. I did beat it. It's not that long of a game unless you're trying to get all these secrets. And once you get to, I want to say it's a South American country, but I can't remember which one off the top of my head, so I'm not going to guess. You will notice that, like, okay, I have to do this thing, get on my boat, drive to another thing, do the same thing, get on my boat, drive to another place, do the same thing. And that's the part that kind of hurts it. But other than that, fantastic game. I'd still keep it in my top five.
Okay.
But yeah, Dune Awakening. If you are hearing this, I'm not sponsored. We don't get no money from this, and I still like it. I'd say it's worthwhile.
All right. There you go.
Okay, so then let's keep it up before we get into movies. Let's talk about your New York trip. What's up?
Oh yeah, New York was fun, dude. That has to be. the best city in America, hands down. I have I would have you try to put your city against New York and tell me why it would be better because there is almost on any day a fun day to do something in New York.
Okay,
Monday,
well,
Tuesday, Wednesday, like you'll find something to do.
but check this out. Can in New York do they decide not to have air conditioners so I can sweat out 10 pounds of water weight every day?
I'm sure there's apartments that have that, and there's
Yeah, you're
other
probably
ones that
right.
are as
Probably
luxury.
right. It's
But
fine.
it was hot then too, like and their weather was weird this time of year in June because uh, it was humid
Hmm.
and uh, thankfully the entire time I was there it didn't rain. But unfortunately, the last day I was there, the day I had to travel back, it downpoured and there was a huge storm. I got stuck on the runway for a whole hour.
It
That,
stinks to be in a plane like that too.
yeah, and like I'm stuck in the middle chair and just like not getting middle chair. You know,
Hmm. Well, and that's before you fly, so then you still have to sit and do the whole flight afterwards.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's not like I'm getting rewarded by waiting here. I'm literally just want to travel out, and now I got to
Hmm.
travel the 5 hours on top of that 1 hour I just wasted.
You didn't have any like connections or anything, did you?
No, it's direct flight,
Sick.
but that sucked. Outside of that, New York City is hands down the best city in America. My opinion, it's not facts, but I would almost guarantee it's kind of a fact for some people.
I don't know many, like all of my experience from New York City is from movies, so I expect to go there and then to get into a gambling incident and then somehow get killed.
Yeah, that doesn't happen uh,
Yeah.
daily or even ever, I would imagine.
See, and so this is where, but those movies are from Hollywood. It's like a regional competition, I think.
It could
Um,
be.
what's okay? Tell me this: is there one place that you find yourself consistently going back to in New York?
I mean, the only reason I consistently go back to it is because it's where the hotels are typically at.
Hmm.
I've been staying in Midtown, Times Square area.
Hmm.
If I had to choose again, I would like to stay in Soho and be closer to that area because there's a lot more like local New York, and you're kind of away from touristy New York. And I kind of want to get away from touristy New York. I did
Hmm.
touristy New York just
Hmm.
this past trip. It's fun, but I'm done with it. I want to just experience New York how other New Yorkers experience it. And I'm not saying I didn't get that. I got that when I took the subway. Like, don't be afraid of taking the subway in New York during the day. I don't have any history of being on the subway at night, so I don't know what life is like there. But during the day, it was fantastic, easy, safe, didn't smell. Like these were all the things I thought would not be the case when going into the subway because the movies tell you and the news tells you. You just gotta experience it yourself and make your own decisions and don't let the news always scare you into like or movies scare you to not to do something.
So yeah, like if you're like me, and the two movies regarding the subway that you've seen are Midnight Meat Train and The Warriors. It's probably not an accurate representation.
No, dude, my experiences on the subway were fun. I started talking to this random dude, or he started talking to me because we were talking about this guy who brought in a whole subway, a whole chair onto the subway, like a furniture style chair
Hell yeah.
at mid like a rush of people stuck in the subway. Like we're packed at like sardines, and this guy had to get his furniture chair from point A to point B. And I get it. It's
Hmm.
cheaper that
Hmm.
way. The subway is hella cheap. And we were just all laughing about like this guy's dragging this chair across town. And I don't know. New York is just fun, dude. If you ever get the chance, make the trek out there, make the voyage. You will not be disappointed.
Oh,
People,
I know it's on our
that's it.
list. I know it's on our list. Like we want to get out there. The Janice of all places really wants to visit the 9/11 memorial.
and I meant to do that. And there's so much to do in New York City that you're not gonna knock everything
Mhm.
out
Mhm.
on a list unless you're there for 2 weeks.
I assume that like people could live there their whole lives and not see it all.
Yeah, I mean, I could go on and on, but New York City was great. And the last thing I'll say, this because it'll segue into this next thing I want to talk
Mhm.
about. Um, Listening to Turnstile's new album on my way home to the airport from Times Square, taking that subway all the way down to the airport, JFK Airport, was, you know, otherworldly, man. I felt connected with the album, with the city, with that atmosphere of like what this album like kind of like bleeds out. Because for anyone who's listened to Turnstile's most recent works, their emotions, their rawness bleeds out into their albums, just because the way they make their sound so authentically Turnstile.
The are they are did they start in a subway? I can only assume by the name Turnstile.
They started in Baltimore.
Oh,
They
okay.
they shout out Baltimore so heavy in their from the beginnings, I would imagine. But in the last, few years, they've just been like really shouting out Baltimore and like having that hometown pride, and that's awesome. Like, I want more artists to do that. Like, make me want to like feel happy for you living in where you came from. Like, I want to enjoy that. I want to visit Baltimore just by listening to this album. I'm not sure if I will because I don't really have much to do or want to see out there. But like this album makes me want to go see the beauty of Baltimore.
Yeah, okay. I mean, no, that makes sense because they hype you up for it.
Yeah,
They
with
hype
their
you up
music
for it.
videos, they're like always like doing stuff and like shouting out Baltimore. So that's really cool. This album has been great. Um, it opens up with what is now feels like a signature of theirs. Did you get a chance to listen to any of it?
Yeah, I only listened through it once, so I don't
Yeah,
have like in depth opinions on it, but I do have.
but you listen to Glow On as well, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So you could kind of understand what I'm talking about if you can kind of like reflect back on how they opened the album. It's just kind of like a down tempo, melancholic synth that they use that like kind of like builds up this hype up until you get like that face melting riff from the guitarist. I'm not sure who's performing the guitar on the song, but I'll shout out the guitarist Pat McCrory. Hopefully, I said your name right.
I'm willing to say you're absolutely correct. I don't know, but
And
I'm here for it.
and possibly Meg Mills. I'm not sure who performed on the album, the guitar riffs, but that shit is tight. Like that shit is amazing. Like Never Enough is such a good opener. Like this album makes you feel connected with humanity, and that's why I was saying like listening to this album on my way to down to JFK was a fun experience to say the least of that. It felt like a cherry on top of an amazing trip.
Hell yeah, I love that.
This album, yeah.
Get
Um,
get a good combo going.
and-
Can I ask you
yeah, go ahead.
something? Just because you like Charlie XCX, right?
Yeah,
And this is like only tertiarily related, but what I'm seeing a lot for Turnstile is that the marketing campaign that they're using is Turnstile Summer. And I know
yeah.
like last year you had Brat Summer, and I'm wondering if either they're on the same label or they have the same agent because they probably saw that work for Brat and they're like, we got this. It's our turn now.
You know, that could possibly be the case. I haven't done the deep dive of who their labels are and who's helping promote this album. I
That's
will
fair.
say though, I did see Charlie XCX shout out Turnstile at her Coachella performance, saying that among other artists that she shouted out, like Dev Hines, Lord, and Turnstile, all saying like Turnstile Summer, just Lord Summer, that type of stuff. And so I could see that trajectory of those two artists kind of falling that within that same fan base. And I don't know, what do you even call this fan base that Turnstile is in? Because like they have a mix of the hardcore with the mix of like the alternative pop. Because
It
their
they're crossover, you
their
know.
crossover is crazy. Like I was gonna laugh about how they have so many genres thrown on this album, like melodic hardcore, hardcore punk, alternative rock, dream pop, shoegaze, new wave, post hardcore. Like they said, let's throw it all on this album.
And it's interesting for me because I think it depends on what you're looking for and what you get out of this album. There's something there for everyone, right? But I think that if you want this album to be one thing, you're going to be disappointed, which is just like an expectations thing. You know what I mean? And that's not to say it's bad. It's just like most people who I hear trashing this album are trashing it because it's not enough of one thing.
I can see that, and
And it's like that to me is kind of a narrow spectrum point of view. It's like if you want this one thing, you can find it. Yeah, you might not like the album's not all that, but variety isn't always a bad thing to have.
I agree. And not all these songs land with me, and that's fine because the thing with Turnstile is if you don't like the song at first, put it again in like 6 months. Oh, it might hit then. Like there are so many times where like I'll not like a song off an album and come back to it and be like, oh shit, I've been like missing out on this completely.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
variety,
Shocking, that's how their last album was for me. Glow On, I didn't really like that much when I first listened to it. It just worked later for me.
yeah, and that's fine. Um, because some things are either like instantaneous, like you get it, like this is
Mm-hmm,
for you, and that's
mm-hmm.
what Glow On felt like. It's like this felt like an album for me, and so that always holds a high candle. Oh, whatever they say, whatever that phrase is like.
I don't know. It's too hot for me to think that deep right now. I
But
want to.
Glow On is to me is a much better album than Never Enough, but not by a lot. I like Never Enough, but there are some times where I'm like, this song's not doing it for me. The songs that do it for me though are uh, the title track "Never Enough,"
Mm-hmm.
"Time Is Happening," and "Look Out for Me." And if I can go on a quick rant about "Look Out for Me,"
Show me what's it got.
all right,
I'll look out for you.
this feels like a different style of writing for them, or different like they're tackling longer songs. Like this isn't very. It's kind of punk, but punk always felt to me like 2 to 3 minutes. And this song goes for like 6 minutes and has like a long outro, which I find to be amazing. I love this song. My only gripe with this song is I wish it was split up in two because whatever happens at the 4 minute mark, where whoever's whistling is mixed in with the instrumentals,
Mm-hmm.
that part warms my ears and waters my eyes every time. Like it's so
Really?
amazing. Like I love
Yeah. Okay.
that sound. It's very ethereal, very less like like if you listen to it at the right time in the morning or at night, like it's gonna hit.
It's you know what, that song in particular reminded me a lot of like a Refused song.
Oh,
You know,
dude,
like because they had a lot of those like outros in the end of their songs where all of a sudden you just have like this kind of genre break in the middle, and
yes,
this song it's not smack dab in the center of the album, but it kind of feels like it is. It splits almost like the two halves of this album perfectly, so it feels like a good segue song. And I think they hit it hard because that's probably my second favorite track on first listen.
dude, that is such a amazing comparison because yes, that album, The Shape of Punk to Come by Refuse, is top tier.
Hmm.
New Noise is New Noise has to be like a grail item to like consider high punk. Like that to me is like high punk. Like that like
New Noise is like the only like fully hardcore song that I think I hear at sporting events where they're like okay with the screaming and everything. They don't care. No one cares. You know, like everyone's like, I'm into this. I was at a double A baseball game like like a month ago, and they played New Noise, and all just like everyone was just into it, which to me is crazy that a hardcore song can get that. So Turnstile, good on you for realizing that not many other people have done that. Take it a little bit. I mean, you know, like it deserves to be taken.
yeah, Turnstile is gonna have an amazing run. I hope they keep this momentum going. My last thing I'll say on this soapbox is that I want to hear more Turnstile arena rock style music, and that is a double edged sword. I know because arena rock can get really corny really fast, but Turnstile is a band that's playing in bigger venues, and they have to mold into that
Hmm.
sound. And I get it. I love the small venue gigs that Turnstile throws on for their fans still, but they're getting to the point where like they're not going to be able to sustain as a band if they kept doing that solely.
Hmm.
And so their next step is becoming this arena rock band, and I'm excited to see what Turnstile does with their sound of hardcore, of punk, and yes, I'm calling them hardcore, even though this isn't what you typically find in hardcore, like Terror or like I don't know another hardcore band right now at the top of my head.
Speed, Suburban Scum.
Oh yeah, Speed from like Australia, right?
Yeah, they're another one that's getting pretty large.
They've gone huge.
They added flutes to their music, so
Yeah, like there's a lot of good hardcore like that sticks to what really like is guttural and disgusting about hardcore at times. But Turnstile hardcore is just like in a lane of itself. Like they're pushing so that other ones can like break through with them too. I feel.
and I'll say this in a way. Like Turnstile's got their own kind of guitar tone. I don't know how else to describe it. I think that's partly what makes them so big is that their guitar tone is it's heavy, but it's also very controlled. It's also simple, and that's not a bad thing in hardcore music. Like it's good to have a simple guitar tone. I don't listen to that the song "Look Out for Me," right? And when the guitar riff hits around like the 2 minute mark, the da na 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 na,
Dude, that riff.
it's a great riff, and it's so controlled, right? There's nothing at all out of place about it.
It sounds hella simple too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it is, and I think that's part of what works for them is they've got this kind of feeling down.
Yeah.
My favorite songs this are all the heavier songs. Like I think my actual favorite song this is Birds. And then Look Out for Me, and I can't remember if it was. I think it was Dull is the other one. Um.
And just quickly linking back to Charlie XCX,
Mhm.
AG Cook, her producer for a lot of Brat, is on that song Dole.
Really,
So there's that link between Charlie XCX and Turnstile. It's not that
see,
far of a link.
yeah, I'm like, there's something going on there because I'm seeing that marketing. I'm like, it's the same, and it would work for them. That's good for them. I'm not hating on it. I'm just saying.
Hey,
uh,
Haley Williams of Paramore is giving them high praise right now. They just kind of like did not a show together, but she came out for their performance in Brooklyn under the bridge, and they were in New York the same time I was, and I was thinking of going, but I didn't get around to it. The tickets were hella expensive.
yeah, I'm sure. I I'm for me the one thing with this album is that for some of the slower moments it kind of fades into the background a little bit,
And
and I
that's
guess
why I agree too. I
that's not
agree with that.
necessarily bad in like
Yeah,
the more pop music. It's just not something I'm used to in a hardcore album, which is again where you have to be ready that this isn't a full hardcore album because it will
no,
just kind of like fade into the background if you let it. Um, and that was only on one listen, so this is again not an in-depth review by any means.
yeah, and I've only been sitting with this album for like less than a week, and so I'm feeling a 7 right now with this album that is has room to grow with over time. Like this is solidly a good album to listen to.
Hmm. And For anyone, because I like heavier music. I think we've established that. For anyone who likes heavier music who gets mad at this because it's not as heavy as they used to be, crossovers are a good thing. And if crossovers can blow up, that's going to get more money into the heavier music, which is going to mean more bands can be viable. Please,
Exactly.
like, have perspective. This is a good thing for everybody having Turnstile blow up. Like, it's great. Let it be.
Turnstiles for the people, and that's all I have to say.
Yeah. So, like, regardless if you're like, I just want them to go back to their two-step days, like, just shut up. Just let it be, man. This is good for everyone. A rising tide lifts all boats. Um, I don't know what boats are gonna get lifted, but here we are.
Yeah,
Um,
like
okay. Clipse, hit me.
yeah, Clipse. For those who are unaware of who they are, most people know Clipse from one person, Pusha T. But Clipse is a two-person rap group, I guess. They're brothers. Clipse, Pusha T, and No Malice. I
Hmm.
mean, everybody knows them for their song "Grinding." Back in the day, it was that like one pencil song that everyone always tried to do on the pencil, with like the drum beat. I'm not gonna attempt, but
Oh,
for
I'd love
most
it if you
people,
attempt it.
grinding is what people know Clips for. They're coming back with a new album uh, 2 weeks from now, by the end of June, I would say. And the album is going to be called "Let God Sort 'Em Out." So I already feel like it's just going to be them taking shots at everybody, but at the same time, not
Hmm.
giving a fuck what anybody thinks,
Well, that's
because
wonderful.
they are so cemented in the rap game that they can do whatever and it will sound fucking amazing. Like, I'm sure it's gonna be produced by Pharrell, which I hope, because Clips isn't a Clips album without Pharrell on production. Um, and it's just gonna have cold flows from Pusha T. I already know because on Ace Trumpets, there is so many good one-liners and hooks on this one song that this album, I'm excited for it. That's all I have to say. Check out Clips in the coming days with an album drop. Great hip hop.
Sick, sick. All right, hell yeah. Um, all right, I'm gonna go into a movie now. I'm gonna talk about Bring Her Back. So Bring Her Back has been out for I don't know, like a week and a half, 2 weeks. So it's an A24 horror movie, and it's from the same guys who directed Talk to Me. I know them as the Daniels. That's not their full names. So I'm not going to look it up right now. It's too hot to look things up. Um, but so Bring Her Back is a movie about using possession to bring back loved ones. That might be a spoiler, but it's also kind of the title of the movie, so I feel okay about that. I won't spoil anything too heavily here. What I will say is that Bring Her Back is easily one of the best horror movies I've watched for actual like horror and dread after the movie's over in
Mhm.
probably a couple years. I really liked this movie a lot. Talk to Me was okay, but this one hit for me on all cylinders. It was brutal, it was graphic, it was mean spirited, and at the very end it still has like a poetic ending almost with a lot of really heavy themes explored. It doesn't back away, and there are a couple scenes where if you see this movie, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't care who you are. Like in a theater, everyone gasped when these things happened. And their ability to take these like simple character styles and make them immediately relatable through story beats was incredibly strong. So like the characters themselves aren't super dynamic. They don't really like leave a lot of room for character growth and development. That's not what the movie's about per se. But what they do is they establish who these characters are, and then they use the story beats to really ingratiate you with them. And it's incredibly effective because then when the horror starts happening, you care so much more about what happens to these characters. And they do that so effectively. Now, my one drawback on this film is that it's yet another grief movie and trauma movie, which A24 just releases grief and trauma horror movies. I should probably just get used to that, but it's a theme that's been explored so many times now at this point where it's like, okay, someone is not dealing with their trauma very well and it ruins his lives for everybody. Got it. Seen it. Dealt with it. So that's the one negative. But that's the only negative I'm giving it. I'm giving this movie an 8.5 out of 10.
Dang.
I thought it was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. And like I don't want to say that it's scary. It's not a jump horror movie. They don't like throw things at you and go like, "Hey, now jump." That's not the purpose of it. It's just the ideas and the feelings underneath it that make it a great horror movie.
So it's like a psychological thriller more
Um,
with
I
some horror
hesitate.
aspects.
I hesitate to say it's not a jump scare horror movie. It's like a mood horror movie.
Yeah, like the what's going on and how the characters are kind of acting.
Yeah, because the it's so
It looks like a possession type film,
yeah, and it is it's so seeped in the occult that I have a hard time calling it anything other than horror, even if
kind of
that's
giving like long legs,
yeah,
like
and
occultism.
it's less of a mystery. I think like the one thing about this movie is you kind of know what's happening pretty early on. There's maybe like a couple things that you couldn't guess, but they're not they don't matter to the overall plot. In the overall plot, you kind of figure it out pretty quick here. It's just more so how the directors of this, are able to like
Raka
mess with
Raka.
your emotions. Yeah, Rock, same dudes.
Yeah, I'm figuring this out right now. I never heard about this movie. I'm literally looking up the stuff right now. Just
Yeah, and they did Talk to Me, which was pretty well received, and I did like
wait,
Talk to Me. Talk to Me, I'd give like a 6 out of 10, but this one
dude.
I
I
think
thought
stepped it up.
you messed up by saying something about Talk to Me. It's like wait, I thought we were talking about Bring Her Back. You were referencing Talk to Me as a movie that they also made.
Yeah, and they wrote and directed both of the films.
Yeah, like
So,
the YouTubers turn
mhm.
filmmakers. Well, they've always been filmmakers, but I think they started on YouTube, so it's kind of like build
It's
up.
easy. You got to get money somehow, man.
Yeah, that's
You know,
cool.
I think that these guys are gonna be around for a while. Like as long as they stick together, and they're not like the Wachowski family, and they split up and they make shitty movies each. If these guys stick together, they're gonna make fantastic films because both of these films, I feel like there's growth between the two, and this second one. Shout out to the actress, the main actress, not the little girl, but the foster mom,
Sally Hawkins.
Sally Hawkins. She does amazing. I think the only other place I've seen her is The Shape of Water, which whatever, not it's a strange movie. She still acted pretty well in that one, but she is so good in this movie at acting. Like the emotions you'll feel towards this character are insane. She nails it.
Well, good for her.
Yeah. The two children actors too are they're very unique children actors. I don't think that I've seen anyone like these actors. Like it's great movie. I highly recommend it. If you're on the fence to anyone listening and you're like, I don't know, it's got mid reviews. I think it was phenomenal, and it stuck the landing very well.
They could use your support too because they barely made their budget back.
Yeah, I mean, if you've been in a movie theater and you saw that poster, if you're not into horror, I don't think you're gonna watch it. The poster's
Terrifying, dude.
yeah,
I don't.
it's very brutal looking.
And I'm a person who does get kind of persuaded on how a poster would look if I'm trying something new or trying like to listen or to watch something new. And if I
Mhm.
don't like the way the poster looks, like this is not pulling me in. And also, I'm not just big on psychological horrors.
Well, okay, I'm gonna give something here because this is one of the things I found really cool. This is gonna be a little bit of a spoiler, so like skip ahead maybe 2 minutes if you don't want to hear anything, if you don't care. One thing that they do in this movie that is the same as they do in Talk to Me that I really liked is they don't just like steep all their ideas and like, oh, it's Satanism, just accept it as Satanism, right? There's no real Satanism in this film. The the foster mom in this like finds a VHS tape from what I assume is the dark web because they have a website on the bottom left hand corner, which leads to a whole bunch of different things. And it's like she's basically trying to do a possession, like the same way people try to fix their cars while watching YouTube videos. She's just following a VHS tape how to.
Yeah,
And it's such a good framing for this where it's just like, okay, I don't really know what I'm doing, but dealing with such hard heart loss that I'm willing to go to whatever lengths to bring her back, as the name states. It's just a unique version of it, and it makes it feel so much more grounded in reality. And I really enjoy it for that reason.
Okay, nice. Bring her back.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any other things you want to talk about before we get into Shutter?
Now let's jump right into
All
it.
right, let's get into Shutter. So Shutter, the 2004 film. Once again, I'm going to do it again because I have to practice. Otherwise, I'm never going to get this right. Directed by Banjong Pisanthanakun. I maybe better. I don't know. And Parkpoom Wongpoom. They also were the writers of the film. It is a movie that has been remade 4 different times. 3 times, excuse me. One is CV, an Indian remake from 2007. We don't need to talk about that. Then there's the American remake, Shutter 2008, which I think many more people will have heard than this original movie and seen. That was starring Joshua Jackson. You guys might know him from what is that soap opera he was in forever ago? Doesn't matter. Fringe. Oh, this is gonna bug me. Dawson's Creek. He was in Dawson's Creek. But we're not talking about that version because that version sucked. And if you saw that version before you saw this version, I think it impacts the way you feel about this movie. So this movie is, I don't know, a story of revenge in ways. A story of not dealing with guilt appropriately. A story of the early 2000s East Asian ghost movies. It has a lady with long black hair who looks really spooky. And she appears out of nowhere.
Yeah, that happens quite often.
Yeah. The first thing I'm going to say is that this, when it came out, I think it would be easier to recognize how maybe unique or novel it was. At this point, watching it in 2025, it feels like an amalgamation of all the other horror movies from that time, which is tough. I don't really feel like that's fair because I think that all those other horror movies took something from this movie, but it feels like it was, a combination of like the Grudge, The Ring, um, other movies like
I can see this being scarier as a kid than as an adult because I think even The Ring and the other one, The Grudge, were scarier as kids
the
because
The
you
Grudge
leave.
was terrifying as a kid. As an adult, it didn't do nothing to me. I had to
Yeah,
resee it.
The Ring as a kid, watching that late at night and being terrified that you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna die because you're like a naive child.
And that's the one thing I think is will negatively impact this movie before it even gets into the weeds with it. Is that we were introduced to these ideas when we were really little, not really little, but like
I
11,
think 11
12.
or 12, yeah.
Yeah. So it's almost feels like an old trope at this point, and it's using a media form that isn't extinct, but it's a lot more rare than it used to be, and that is actual film photography. But let's talk about it. So you have the main character, Tun, not to be confused with Ton.
Damn
Stick
it.
with me here. So,
Oh,
Ton,
there's a ton and
yeah,
there's
there's a Tun and a Ton. So Tun and Jane, they are the two protagonists in this film, if
a
you will.
couple.
Yeah, they're the couple. I don't know protagonist is the right word. And they are leaving a wedding reception. They get drunk. They hit Natre.
That's what it was for, a wedding reception?
I think so. I think that's
I
what they
thought it was
said
like
at
an
the
after
beginning.
work party or like friends gathering just to meet, like, something like that to celebrate. But we'll go with it.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was Ton's wedding reception, and they leave
Oh,
the
you
wedding
know what?
reception and they
Yep.
kill Natra.
Yeah.
No, they don't kill Natra. I'm wrong. So Natra, they hit Natra, and she goes to the hospital. This is important because Natra is so Natra is our ghost character. She's
Yeah. So
our
did he ever run over her then?
he did run over her. He hit her.
No, he didn't. She did.
She
Jane
did.
did.
Yeah, she did. And I think that the reason why Jane wasn't, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself here. The reason why Jane wasn't the one who was haunted was, in my opinion, because Jane was not the one who wanted to run away. She wanted to check, but Toon talked her into running away. And so this movie has a couple plot twists. I think we're gonna just have to give it away right at the beginning. This is spoiler heavy if you haven't heard, so
If you haven't watched it,
go watch it right now. So,
stop listening to us.
so Toon and Notre were a couple prior to them, to Toon hitting her in the car, right? And they hit it. Toon hid it from all of his friends for, because Notre wasn't cool enough or something. Some silly like high school shenanigans or college shenanigans, I don't know. And Toon then, his friends ended up sexually assaulting Notre.
Yeah, I wasn't ready for that, dude. This movie has
No.
a lot of trigger. Like they should trigger warn you
Mm-hmm.
what's going to happen because I wasn't ready for sexual assault of that nature. I was definitely not ready for a lot of suicides.
There, yeah, and there's a lot of suicides. Um, so, and they get Toon to take a picture of the sexual assault happening, and that's, I could not figure out for the life of me why these guys wanted a picture of the crime they're committing.
Yeah, like is that
They're like,
is society more like against them being embarrassed and shamed than finding out or like trying to reach out? I don't know.
that's like, they're like, you won't tell anyone. Here, we'll take a picture. That's how we'll guarantee you don't tell anyone. I'm like, whoa. If they took a picture and then she went and told them, then they gave the picture, wouldn't they just be incriminating themselves?
Yeah,
But what do I know? You have to be right. It has to be a societal difference. And I mean, also, I recognize that even in America, like women don't always come out, but neither here nor there. Like taking a picture. The reason why I bring the picture up is because, of course, this picture is how Natra starts haunting
yeah,
Toon.
that's the initial trauma.
Hmm. So she sees the photo, she sees the camera coming out, and she starts haunting Toon after she dies with cameras. Now, I had questioned myself here because this movie has a lot of different appearances of Natra, the ghost. And I was like, this movie doesn't have very set rules on how she appears. It feels like sometimes she has to be in a photograph, and other times she can just show up whenever she wants, and other times it's like her head pops out of a sink that's full of water. Like there's no actual reason she does and does not show up. And the important link there was that she shows up, I think, differently for everybody. We don't really see how she shows up for every character except for Toon, but with Toon, she shows up with the camera because that's the point where he really betrayed her. Her dying almost had nothing to do with it. Her getting photographed after a sexual assault had everything to do with it.
Yeah, did she offer herself too?
Yeah, she does off herself. So Natra, she gets hit by a car.
But
I
that's
wrote this
not
down.
her dying.
That's not her dying because they do. The ambulance comes and picks her up, and the mom explains to us because we find Natra's body in the mom's house because mom lost it and was like, she's doing fine, don't worry, she's upstairs.
Yeah, she's been like keeping it in tune in her bed.
I love that sequence of events because it doesn't really change much. It was just like, yeah, mom's crazy too, bro. But it does let you know that, yeah. So Natra, she didn't die at the hit and run. She cut her wrists and then jumped off a building.
Yeah, and I didn't like seeing. I don't think they showed that. Did they show that part? Or they just
They
talked.
didn't show her jumping off the building. They showed Toon's two friends, Ton and Jim Meng, one of those guys, jumping off a building.
Yeah,
So there was a lot of building jumps happening. So let's talk about how we actually thought about this movie, because that's kind of the basic setup. So we have a ghost. She pops out of places. She has a reason to be there. In the end, no one really ends up winning this, and we find out like she's not necessarily the antagonist. Toon might be the antagonist, and his friends are all committed the first act of evil that led to the follow up acts of evil. Unfortunately, again, for me, the watching this 21 years after it came out, I've seen this story a bunch of different times at this point. You know, like even as far as like plot points, beat points, like okay, they go to the family's house and they find out it's not exactly what you expected. That was in the movie The Ring, right? And these movies, the American remakes and the East Asian original ones from the early 2000s to mid 2000s to late 2000s, all kind of just became a melting pot of the same plot slightly twisted. And what makes it really difficult is that I have a hard time telling you exactly what movie I saw each of these things from, but I do feel like I've seen each part of this movie in a different movie already.
Yeah, I mean, this a lot of what I saw in this film didn't really add a new experience to what I feel like I already seen in The Ring. And with that being said, like there are parts that are good but not great. Like,
Yeah, and so like I think I'm gonna air my list of grievances out here, and then we can talk more about more of the good stuff because good stuff's fun. Grievances, I think I just got to get them out of the way. One thing about this movie too is that it has that early 2004 camera to it, you know, or the not camera, but the color gradient quality.
yeah,
It is a very drab looking film, very washed out. Like if you could wash everything out in light and then still make it look dark, they figured out how to do it. There's almost no pop colors in this movie anywhere. So it's not we've talked about this with other films. It's not like a visually fun movie to watch.
yeah, everything seemed kind of like gray and black at times.
Mhm. Mhm. It felt very digital film to me. And again, it's a style that in the early 2000s was a thing. Like you can look at video games, you can look at movies, you can look at TV shows. They thought like, man, we want this dark, gritty look to everything.
Yeah,
I think Saw really like did that. Saw got super popular, and everyone's like, "Oh, I know why it got popular. It's because it looks dark and gritty, not because it has an interesting story." And so we see that here. That was a big part. Is that visually outside of the actual villain encounters, the ghost encounters, and the ghost design, it was visually a very boring movie.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I would say I would agree with that. There wasn't anything that like stood out as far as like visual stunningness.
yeah, and so the big twist is that Natra has been sitting on Toon's shoulders for essentially the whole film. And
Yeah,
that's why his neck hurts. That's why he's getting X-rays. That's all this, and that. This is unfair to the movie. What I'm about to say, but this hurt it so bad is that in the American version, it's the exact same twist, and Joshua Jackson did so terrible at making that twist seem serious. Yeah, the reveal in this one was not bad, really, because the camera drops and he sees it, and it's like creepy legs, right? The reveal in the American version was so stupid that it hurts this version because I knew about it and I thought it was the dumbest thing that had ever happened in the world. I like actually how they go about showing the reveal in this movie, but in the American version, it's thrown to the ground so hard and made so stupid. Like, oh, we take a selfie. Oh no, she's on my neck. Ah! And it just wrecks this twist in this film, and it's so unfair. But I can't state this enough. If you haven't seen the American version, don't. It's what my end opinion there is. And Andrew, I can tell by you not knowing what I'm talking about, you haven't seen the American version because if you had, it was the stupidest twist in that version. Like it was so stupid. It looked
no, I haven't
goofy as
heard of
all
this
hell.
version. I haven't heard of the American version. This is like my first watch. I only watched this movie once, and I watched it in the very crowded JFK airport. So my opinion on this movie is gonna be very rough. So don't take my word on this film being good or bad. For me, what I didn't like about this film was I don't know. It just felt very run of the mill. I'm just like, oh man, when is this movie gonna like feel different? And part of me, I like the storytelling. I like the story. It like kept me entertained. The runtime was uh, you know, wasn't too long, so that made it so it was like kept my attention long enough to finish the film, but um, there's not a whole lot of reasons for me to like want to go rewatch it. So I think that's like
Mhm.
my biggest gripe is like there's not enough for me to want to enjoy about this film to rewatch it. But there are some decent parts that kind of made me like cringe, like not cringe like in a bad way, but cringe because like I don't like seeing that. Uh,
Mhm.
the part where she's like sliding a knife through her hand.
Yeah.
I don't do well with physical harm. I do not like watching that on screen. Like I always like squint or scream. Like I was like cracking my hands when I saw it. Like because like that's my reaction when I see something I don't like. I like to like I clench,
Mhm. Mhm.
and I didn't like that. So and it was weird for me to do that in a busy airport. People like around me were like wondering like, what's
What's he
going on.
watching? I gotta check that out. It's like when Harry met Sally with the opposite way around.
But there were parts that like I was intrigued by, like the whole time when they went to go talk to that journalist and they were
Mhm.
doing the fake ghost stories, but there's actual real ghost stories, and like was selling you something, so we have to make it worth exciting enough for you to buy. So I get
Mhm.
that aspect, but I liked his rationality of it. Like we're selling you a product.
Mhm. You see, and that's one of these things that I think where I'm being unfair to the movie is that this feels like other movies we've seen where like they're going and they're doing like detective work, right? But this movie came out in 2004. I'm comparing it so heavily to The Ring, the American version, which I should probably check when that one came out.
Yeah, well,
Um,
that
2002,
one.
so still prior, still prior.
Yeah, and
Like,
dude, the Ring Girl is way scarier than not.
oh, see, this is where we like the Ring Girl. She's got a good design, but I actually think Notre looks scary if you
Dude,
put her
just
next
look
to
at
each
no, no,
other.
no. I'm looking at a picture right now of the girl with her face showing,
Hmm.
kind of. Well, let me see if I can see Nache. I didn't really get a Nache face in Shutter. Here we go. Like, where is she supposed to be scary at one point? Oh, I mean, yeah, that is a scary looking person.
I thought she had a fantastic design. It's one of the better parts of it, and it depends on when you're watching her. But if you're like when she's on the ladder, I think, or when
I
she's
think if they would have stayed longer when she's like on the car, I think that's the scariest
mhm.
part. She looks the scariest.
I can't remember when she's like bleeding from her eyes and her mouth, but I remember that scene happens, and that was also pretty creepy. So I think they did a really good job on this one, and with the ring, I do agree. And the ring lady has a name. I forget it off the top of my head. It's like Samaya or something like that. But they do a
Samara?
really good. Yeah, Samara. I think that's exactly
Dude,
right.
does Samara beat Natre in a Ghost Off?
She has to. I think.
I think Samara has more powers, probably, huh?
Okay, so this is a weird one, but there was that movie, The Grudge versus The Ring.
That
It's
was
not
a
what
thing.
it's yeah, it was a
The
thing. It
Grudge versus
was
the Ring Girl.
like Samara versus some shit or something. I can't remember.
Sure, sure, but
But it was The Grudge versus The Ring, and I'm pretty sure that the Samara won because of her ability to infect people.
dude, yeah. So Samara beats Natre. Natre just guys try to sit on Samara's shoulders, and the
Well,
Ring Girl just gets like do what the Ring Girl does.
this is interesting because I think like you know what, Natre is kind of like the ghost from The Grudge, right? She's just born out of vengeance, born out of a terrible act of like violence, and then she becomes this like vengeance ghost. So in that case, Samara definitely wins as far as powers. I think the thing with Samara is that they just didn't use her and her creepiness enough in the ring. You know what I mean? Like creepy things happened in that movie, and when she popped out of the television, it was pretty scary as a kid. Don't rewatch it expecting it to be as scary. I tried that.
And it didn't hold up in that aspect.
It didn't hold up on it. But when they were like showing her on the film, like looking, it was pretty terrifying. I just don't think they used her. Whereas they used Notre a lot, and they used jump scares in Notre's face over and over again. And it remained consistently terrifying for me. Like some of these jump scares actually got me, which is not super common. The stupid one where she shows up underneath the goddamn ladder. Like he's climbing down the ladder, she's climbing down upside down, which is terrifying in aspect and theory
Oh
itself.
yeah.
And then he looks down for a second, looks up, and she's under the ladder. I'm like, physically, I know she's a ghost, but this doesn't make any sense. You can't do that to me.
But at the same time, a lot of what she was doing didn't make sense. I don't know how she was like keeping up with that speeding car, and also I'm not sure how he didn't crash.
He had gotten really good at,
He was drifting. He drifted hella well,
yeah,
and he was lucky there was no other cars on the road. But
you know, he was. There. Why do you think the little monk kid could see Notre on his shoulders?
I think kids are maybe tapped into imagination, and imagination plays into their ability to see supernatural things. I don't know. I'm just trying to make shit up right now.
I mean, that's what we got though, so that's totally fair. Uh,
Uh, but I think this movie would have worked better if I was home alone. I had good sound systems
mm-hmm.
to watch this movie, and like the whole room was dark. It was late at night. I think this movie has a bigger scare impact on me than if the way I watched it, which was at the airport on a small iPhone.
Yeah, and see that's which is a good point because I think that, like, the one thing that this movie did really well for me is that even though I've seen all these story beats and I kind of knew what was happening, this scare still got me because it pulled me into the atmosphere of the scene, which I think is like, I don't know how to describe it, just really good pacing and editing, and the way they set things up, like when they're in the room with all of the dead bodies because that's the biology room. They took photos there. It was just good setups and good scenes, and then
And
Nacho's
you know
face
what?
looks so nasty.
That's another thing. The reason I probably wouldn't want to rewatch this is because of the sexual assault. I'm
Yeah.
not big on that in movies, man. I don't want to watch that. I know what happens. It's a harsh reality we live in the world. But sometimes there's just things that I don't like in movies because I want to like not. I still want to be reminded of that.
Mhm. Mhm. No, that's fair. I would agree for the most part. I think that it's interesting that they use the sexual assault in this movie to justify the murders. And I think that if you've watched this movie, you would probably think that the murders are in part justified.
I get that because this seems like a person like a woman scorned, and now I'm going to take vengeance because this person dumped me.
Mhm. Mhm.
Well, now I don't feel bad for any of the characters except the girl who got SA'd like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the Toon's wife, right? Because she didn't know, and then she finds out after it's already
Oh,
too late. And she's been going through all this stuff, so it's like two women get damaged from this, and they're really the people who are the victims in this.
and the mother is hurt. Like I just feel bad for a lot of the women in this movie
Hmm.
because the men were scum.
And I think that to me is an interesting juxtaposition, right? Because like I agree, I don't really want to see it, but I think it's used in a way that like shows. I don't know. I can't speak necessarily to the values of it, but it's not a completely thrown away scene. It's like the whole entire driving
No,
force behind the
definitely
vengeance.
it plays a significant role in the film. I'm not trying to like take away the impact of what that scene did. I just know personally, like it's not something I like to view in cinema
Hmm.
because I
Hmm.
also I don't want to watch that sitting next to somebody. This is awkward.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. Don't you've never watched the movie Irreversible, have you?
No,
Okay, good. Don't
all
trust me.
right,
Trust me on that one.
no, I've not seen that one either. But
Yeah,
like
it's brutal.
it happens in films I do like, which is weird because like you see it happen in Pulp Fiction,
Hmm.
and I like that movie. I'll rewatch that movie. It maybe because it's I don't know. I don't want to get the psychological aspect of it,
Yeah, you ready for this? Let's go, man.
but
Therapy session. Start.
there are parts that like I don't know. It's hard to view at time. I don't know.
Hmm.
It's hard to say right now.
Well, and I think that they led up to all this is like Sinatra is this lady who is like an outcast, right? Like everyone is like, oh, she's weird, no one likes her,
Yeah, they
yada yada.
really set
And
her up to be like this outcast. Yeah,
yeah, and it seems like when you learn more about her, she was just really just a lady who was just trying as hard as she could. You know, she just wanted to fit in. She was wanting to go to college. She wanted to do the thing, and then basically she gets in with this group and this boyfriend that won't stick up to her for her, and because she gets involved in this group, her life is basically destroyed. And so again, using all this as the justification for the murders really works because at the end of the movie, I think you see Tune in the
they're gonna
men
psych ward or like a hospital.
yeah, something like that, and he's, like, bent all the way over, and she's on his back still, and again, it seems like the worst thing that could happen to someone, and yet you're like, "You deserve it."
Yeah, because you had a choice in the matter.
Mhm. I think back to movies like I Spit on Your Grave, which is it's a hard watch. It's just basically a woman gets, you know, SA'd and then she takes revenge on everyone. I don't really recommend watching it, but I think that this is a more modern version of that where they can make it with this sort of different trapping. Like this is a trope of like scary Asian ghost, right? And they can take a movie like I Spit on Your Grave, where it's this revenge movie, and they can use it in this sort of trope, and it works. Last house on the left is also one that maybe you saw similar to that. It's like lady gets SA'd and then goes on a revenge spree. Um, it's not my favorite thing either, and it is hard to watch in a lot of movies. This one, for what it's worth, I don't think this scene is like as graphic as a lot of these other films, but like it's not that doesn't really make it better. It's like any graphic at all is kind of harsh. However, let's talk about
It's kind of interesting though that this that kind of motif keeps coming up in
mhm.
these horror films. Like horror really likes to like lean into that because you saw it kind of in that one snuff making film that is a film within a film. You know which one you? It was like a few podcasts ago where the car blew up.
Yeah, Mute Witness. There we go. We got it.
Mute Witness, yeah, that can also be seen like as essay and like
Mhm.
these keep happening in these horror films that I'm watching for this podcast. They're like, man, I don't want to keep watching this stuff.
It's hard because horror, I think, in general, is based on like losing power and losing control, and that's also what SA is supposedly
True.
about, right? It's like losing power and losing control, or someone stealing it from you. Which doesn't mean that like every movie needs to do it, but it's a pretty like
Common
one
trope
for
in this
one
horror.
connector. You
Yeah.
know, you're like, okay, well, you lost control, and someone took the control from you, and we can show you doing it like this. But also like these horror movies, a lot of the and Mute Witness doesn't count, but for like this, they like to use women as the evil entity, right? And how do you show like what from a I assume male perspective would make a woman more angry than this, right? So this might be like where this trope comes from too, is it's easier to write a woman needing vengeance because of this. It's just interesting. I brought up Bring Her Back in the beginning, and like they have something similar, but it's not based on SA. It's based on intense grief, right? And that might be a better way to do it. I'm kind of just spitballing this out here because, yeah, I hear what you're saying, and it's rough, and it's like, well, why does it happen over and over again, right? It's like this is supposed to be a ghost movie about cameras, and yet here we are with the central focus being SA. And I think it's just this is a problem that has never been solved and probably will never be solved.
No, unfortunately, you would hope that it would happen less, but over time,
You know, and like we'll see movies from
yeah,
each culture dealing with it in their own way.
yeah,
I guess the best thing you can say is that it's good news that in the end she's almost seen as the protagonist, right? Like you can
yeah.
see one of these movies where they paint
It's a
they're
hero's
seeing
arc.
that picture. Yeah. it's confusing. It's complicated. It's a
Yeah,
good twist, I think, for that one reason is that it really kind of flips the whole movie on its head. You go from like, oh man, she's evil. Why does she want to kill these guys? I mean, you kind of know. Well, she got hit by a car, sure, but now she's killing his friends. That's messed up.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And to all of a sudden, like, oh yeah, well, she deserves to kill him. Why are they fighting her? They should be like saying sorry.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, for
Uh,
sure.
but yeah, it's been done before in different ways. So this is like the again this scary ghost story version of the same story that we've seen before.
I want to jump to the end really quick
Yeah.
and ask you: do you think the girlfriend of Tune,
Mm-hmm.
the guy who has Naches on his shoulders,
Mm-hmm.
was she going back? Was Jane going back because she wanted to see how well he was doing, or because they're still together?
It's got to be because she wanted to see how well
Yeah,
he was doing.
she,
Because
she
Jane,
found out. She
yeah,
found out.
for what it's worth, Jane's character, I love it. When she finds out, she's just like, "Nah, see, I'm out."
Yeah, you said that. I was in this. I was a ride or die until I found out what you did, and it's like, why am I gonna ride or
Mhm.
die with this asshole?
Jane's character is the one character in this whole entire movie that just stays good, and you can root for her the whole time
Yeah,
because
that's
Jane
true.
has nothing to do with it. Jane gets like Jane does hit her, so I guess there's not like nothing to do with it. But Jane wanted to stop and make it right. Jane was talked out of it, and then Jane finds out what happened, and she's like, "Nah, screw you, bro. You
Yeah,
suck."
I mean, Jane got little scared, but that's because she hit her. So he's like, "Hey,
Hmm.
man, I know you didn't mean to, but I gotta do some scary shit to you now because you hit me.
She's yeah,
I
she's
was
like,
trying to scare my boy. I was just trying to hop on his neck really quick.
Right. Well, Jane might have been used as a tool. Now that I'm thinking about it, like she might have been just used specifically only to hurt Tun. You know, like she's like, I'm not gonna kill you because I think it'll hurt more if your love lives and won't be with you. I don't know.
Yeah,
But like when she was popping her head up in the water, it's such a cool scene. Like you know it's gonna happen, but then you see it and she's like, oh, that's fucking cool. No matter what,
there's
it's
a lot of
cool.
stuff that like, oh, like when the whole door opening when he's doing the photographs, and then he
Hmm.
gets a phone call, and then James, he thinks the person who walked in through the door was Jane, but when
Hmm.
he hears a voice on the phone, he drops the phone. Like I've seen that a lot, and it had some moments of scariness because like, oh shit, if that would have happened to me, I'd be fucking stone dead terrified.
Hmm.
But it didn't have that effect on me because it just felt so expected.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard because that's how a few of them were. Like when Toon and Jane were in bed and the blankets were getting pulled off of him. You know she's gonna be at the bottom of the. You know she's gonna be at the bottom of the bed. It's not scary because it's too obvious.
Yeah, because you're unless she was gonna be looking way different, or she was gonna just like run up and do like that's the scary walk where they kind of like glitch and
Hmm.
they do
Hmm.
like and like if she would have glitched to the front of the camera to act like a POV that's her getting close to him, I could have maybe got a little scared about that. But there was a little bit of a scare when he sees Jane and Jane like is bleeding out her wrist in the stairwell when he's running away from the blanket effect.
Yeah, dude.
That part was kind of scary, but other than that, like a lot of this movie wasn't scary to me. It was just kind of be like I'd be scared if it was happening to me.
Yeah, yeah. There was the two jump scares that really got me were the latter one, which I already talked about because it was kind of stupid. But when they're doing the car scene and she ends up on the hood of the car somehow for some reason, even though you know it's gonna happen, that one got me too. I think it was the music editing. I when you were talking there, I had to space out for a second because I just thought about something. When the mom talks about Nacho being dead, right, and how she died and she jumped off the roof of the hospital and everything, and her body's like super decomposed, right? Was she dead when they hit her in the car? Was that her ghost?
I would think so. I
Like
thought so.
maybe that's why Jane, because I was remembering they said that there were no bodies or accidents
Reported, yeah.
reported. So what am I? Is this might just be mind blowing to me because I didn't think about it until just now. But was that her ghost? And then
Yeah, I thought that's what we kind of agreed on. That was her ghost, not actual Natre.
it's
I was
funny.
kind of
I didn't think that at all. I just
did the hospital when she went to
must
the
have been before.
hospital. Did the hospital give the body back to her mom? Be like, hey, you take care of this. How
I've
did how did the mom end up with the body to like hang out and like leave it in her room?
yeah I here's this is like a trope that I've seen in a lot of Korean horror films. Not a lot, but a few. Is that if it's just less like the culture's different, right? Like they're like, okay, hey, you want your daughter's body to say something or something, do something at home, like whatever, take it. Either that or it's just a trope in the horror movies. I don't know if the culture's actually like that or if it's just something they do in horror movies
I
to make
mean,
it work.
they did like a ceremony and all of that, so maybe that's why
Hmm.
they allow them to like take the body home,
And then she just was like, hey, bud, don't take her. And they're like, yeah, okay.
pound them off our hands, I suppose. But no, I don't thought that. I'm pretty sure that was the ghost.
Yeah, that makes so much more sense. That would be why Jane doesn't get murked, killed, because she didn't actually hit anyone. So she just scared her twice, right? Yeah. Huh.
Yeah,
There the one weird bit of little character building they did where Toon is just like so certain that he's gonna die that he gets suicidal was really strange to me too. Where he's just like, yeah, it's just
yeah.
I'm gonna
I
die,
thought she
huh?
had powers over them.
Yeah, because so Ton and other friend that you see jumping off of a building, they're never really explained, so it seems like it just happens pretty quick, right? Ton, I guess, does show up at their apartment one night. I wasn't certain if that was really Ton or if it was like some weird astral projection thing, right? Because he shows up, he's like, "I'm in danger," and then he disappears and he's dead. But I lost my train of thought. I'm it's hot in here, guys. um,
But
okay.
no, I think for the most part, this is your run of the mill type horror film, ghost horror film. So there's not for me. There's not a lot for me to add to this. So if you want to, if you have any notes that you want to throw out there, I'm here to listen.
Yeah, okay. I'll throw some things out here. So the first thing I want to bring up is that the balcony scene where Ton, the friend, is jumping off is recreated in Scary Movie 2 or Scary Movie 3 whenever Charlie Sheen jumps off.
Oh, damn! I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's where that's from. I recognize it like as soon as I saw it, I'm like, "Oh, that's the one from Scary Movie." Um Yeah, so that's cool. My personal, I don't know that a lot of shots in this movie were great. I don't think any were terrible, but there weren't a lot that great. I thought the shot when the other friend was jumping off the building and it maintained that still shot with the top of the building up in the sky and the guy just kind of like falling slowly. I don't know if it was slow motion, but it kind of looked like it. I thought that was a really good shot, unfortunate to what was happening, but it was a really well done shot and it actually like looked different than the rest of the film, so it stuck out to me. In that case, I think it's because it actually had the color blue in it, whereas none of the rest of this movie had any colors in it whatsoever. Um, I yeah.
My only addition, I guess, to kind of finally say on
Mhm.
this is the box office. This movie made hella money.
Yeah, it was the largest movie in Thailand when it came out. I there's a couple other countries that it was the number one grossing movie, so I don't know if it was all Asian money that came in, but it did well enough that it got a remake in 2008, albeit a terrible one. It's neither here nor there. Uh, yeah, there's another thing. The use of darkroom is such an easy tone setter but it always works. Red room, red dark room, and I do have to ask your opinion about one thing. No, I want partly your opinion because I already know my answer. I'm gonna give my answer after this. Do you think it's hygienic to take a dump and smoke at the same time?
No, I don't. I've never thought that was like a thing people did. Maybe it's to relax their asshole when they're
Yes.
dude. Like, why else would you need to smoke? Fucking
But
your shit. Like you're that addicted, or is that
okay,
the only time and peace you get? Like, fuck, dude.
here's the thing,
Because you know,
man.
it's like you know, a lot of people do it because there's an actual like ashtray in the stall.
Look,
So
I'm
it's not
gonna.
like Tim.
You never smoke cigarettes, right?
No,
You don't have
I don't
to
like
out
that
yourself
shit.
on like that. But I did, and I will tell you when I saw it, I was like, man, that's probably brilliant. It's gross.
No,
It's
it sounds
disgusting.
awful.
Yeah, it's the nastiest thing I can think of. But you know what? Is like a mixture of endorphins going on. It's probably pretty sweet.
Dude, you're taking care of business.
Yeah, and you're taking care of business, and business taking care of you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, business.
um, that whole bathroom scene, by the way, like that is not a scene that you'll see in an American movie taken as lightly as it was in this film.
Yeah, I thought that was it threw me for a loop in that
Eh,
moment.
I think even in 2004, the movie that scene wouldn't be like as serious as it felt now because of how like I don't need to go on. If you know the bathroom scene, it's they try to scare you into thinking that Notre is in the stall next to you because the person in the stall next to Tun has nails. Man,
Fingernails,
like
like
feminine, feminine nails.
yeah.
And he goes, he kicks open the door because he's ready to fight this ghost. I don't know that he knows it's a ghost at that point, but and then he finds out it's not. That it is a. Well, I don't know what the politically correct term here to use is, so I'm just gonna say like it's a trans person in the bathroom. And it's shocking because if you think about 2004 in Thailand and you think about now and how these scenes are portrayed differently, it's just a sign of its time and how things have changed or haven't changed. If you want one scene to post online to really get a lot of people mad in some way or another, post that scene.
All I gotta say is that was an interesting stall.
um,
That ashtray in it.
mhm. Yeah, I
And
mean, I'd never seen it before. I wrote that down in my notes. I was like, I'll read the actual note. I wrote taking dumps and smoking at the same time, yay or nay? Because I'm like, I don't know. Sounds disgusting, but maybe this is where their whole culture's ahead of us. We just don't know it.
yeah, and if they were doing it for the right reasons and for representation, I'm all for it. I love all representation in a positive light. So shout outs to Pride Month this month.
Hmm. Shout outs. The and then finally, before we get into our last things, 'cause I feel like we're wrapping up here. I am gonna say I thought once they hit the 3/4 mark of the movie and things really went off rails at the ending act when Notre was full on after Ton, the the ghost design got so good. I think when she was walking on the ceiling, when she was going down the ladder backwards, when she was behind the ladder, the ghost design for me was just really cool. Like even when you're here and expecting it, you've seen movies that use similar villains as tropes. It was still done really well. So I dug it. With that said, Andrew, do you want to give us some scores? You want to wrap this up?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, my opinion is very rough. Do not take my word. I'm just giving you a first-hand experience of what I thought the film was. It, to me, just seemed very run-of-the-mill. There are moments that are scary. I'm sure there's a lot of people who've taken influence from this film. I don't know where their inspiration came from, but you can possibly see in moments for yourself that like, oh, that seems very familiar, or that looks cool. I wonder if they did it first. They may have not. I don't know. But from what I'm feeling and what I'm seeing, it just doesn't feel all that different from what I've already kind of experienced with these type of ghost horror films. So that's for me, it's not a must watch. So and also I didn't watch it on the best screen and the best time frame. So maybe that could have had a factor in it. But again, I just don't think I'm gonna rewatch this film. And for that, I'm feeling like just a run of the mill 5 out of 10. This movie just if you want to watch it, cool. If you don't, cool. That's that.
That's fair. So with this movie, I'm not giving it a hugely different score, and again, I think it's the timing of it all. I think that as a movie, it's not any like it doesn't tread new water and like ideas, topics, etc. It's very competently well done at what it attempts to do. I do enjoy movies with these like detective backgrounds. So like story, I'm giving it a 3. Pretty middle. Acting, I'm giving it a 3. The acting, I'm really again not sure if the acting is actually good or if it just comes across that way because I can't speak the language and understand the intonations of everything they're saying. But it was well done from what I could tell. Editing was a 3 because they kept it on a good runtime. I don't think scenes lasted too long. I don't remember any parts where I was like, man, this needs to end. Creativity, I'm giving that one a 4 just because I like the creature design so much. I'm gonna call it a creature design, monster design. It was just not Trey. And then music a 2 because I don't remember anything about it. So that's not great. So the movie comes out to a 6 out of 10 for me. I don't think that it is an amazing blow your mind away movie at this point in time. I do
No,
think
not
for
at all.
yeah, I do think for people that
Maybe
want
back in the day, in 2004, this movie was like, oh shit, this is scary. But now this movie ain't shit.
mhm, and I do think this is a movie that could be an interesting watch if you want to see kind of like where a lot of these genre cliches came from that were around in the
Possibly,
early
yeah.
2000s and the mid to late 2000s because it wasn't bad. I don't really regret watching it. It's
No,
just wasn't phenomenal. And if you've seen the American version, I would say it probably tainted you way too much because it tainted me a lot. Knowing all of
yeah.
the twists and in such a stupid way hurt really bad.
I was finding myself fast forwarding at times when I could because I was like, speed up a little bit, man. You're making this scene drag a little bit. When you kind of reminded me when you were going over your reviews, like, yeah, there was times actually that I felt like I was just like, speed up, hurry up, get to the scary part right now. Like you're walking so slow to this door handle, just do it.
Yeah, I didn't feel that way, but that's fair. That's fair. Um, yeah, so it's a 6 out of 10 for me. If you like this sort of movie, you'll know. You know, like, and if you listen to this, or if you even just listen to the end part of this, and you're like, "But I love these Asian ghost movies," then go watch it. You're gonna like it. It's a good version of that. It's just at this point in time, it's not gonna blow your mind.
No,
You know. Um, so that wraps up Shutter for 2004. Andrew, why don't you tell us what we're watching next?
okay, yeah. Next time we gather back, we'll be discussing Mathregan.
Mathregan, otherwise known as Megan. I don't. I think you're probably right because that's how you spell it online.
It says
Uh,
pronounced Megan, but I just like calling it Mathregan because it's
you know what? I'm here for it. Next, when we do the podcast, I'm only going to refer to it as Mathregan because that is far more entertaining.
so we're going from one horror film back into another one, I guess. Is this horror? I'm not even sure. I don't really know.
The sequel that's coming out definitely does not look like horror, but this one I think is listed as horror. Are you gonna question? I'll air it out in front of everybody, whoever's listening. Are you gonna make an attempt to watch the unrated version, or are you gonna watch the PG-13 one, or do you have no idea yet?
I have no idea.
I'll probably watch the unedited or the unrated version, just so I can
And if
see
there's a
some.
part that like I'm not sure what you're talking about, that's probably
Yeah,
whatever version I didn't watch.
we'll we'll
Come
see.
back and
But
find out.
cool. So for next time, Megan, me M3gan from 2022. Um, Tun, it's Jane. I'm gonna be a little late today.
Stay tuned.